Thank you for downloading episode 370 of the Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong podcast. This week, we have Papa Americano, MTG Gets Smart, Kemp's public safety push, oh Newark, tensions ease in South Asia, the never-ending debt ceiling discussion, Trump can't stay out of state politics, just release the damn files, and the CrowdStrike fallout. I'm Dave Roberts. With me is my part of this endeavor, Pike County Commissioner Ken Pullen.
Hey there. Good morning.
Morning. We are recording Saturday morning.
Yes. I was a little late getting back from a trip to Minneapolis this week, a business trip. So stayed downtown Minneapolis. It was super nice. The weather was perfect. Didn't visit the George Floyd Memorial. It was a couple miles away. But yeah, Minneapolis has really kind of turned the page now, I think. The downtown area is super nice.
So they figured out
it's kind of like Atlanta. Certain parts are nice.
Well, these cities have figured out that you need the money, and
yes.
and people with money don't want to go to something that looks like a scene out of Fallout.
Yeah, they've really done a big job, or a good job, revitalizing the downtown area. And I never knew that Minneapolis was on the Mississippi River until a few years ago when I went jogging. I'd always gone up during the middle of winter when it was frozen over and never even ventured outside. But yeah, it's a really nice city on the river, and they've got St. Paul's on the north side of the city, and it's a cool little spot to visit this time of year.
Well, speaking of spots to visit, we're getting a third Buc-ee's in the state of Georgia, down on 95.
I know, these are places you can spend hours at. Yeah, where are the other two? You said Calhoun, and there's one in Warner Robins. This will be down on 16, I guess. So they've got 75 covered on both north and south.
It's on 95.
Yeah, this one's on 95. So this one's on 95. And then they're going to build another one in Forsyth County, not Forsyth City of Forsyth, Monroe County, coming up, I think, next year. So we'll have 4 Buc-ee's in the state of Georgia.
And there's one in Opelika.
Yeah, I haven't been to that one yet, but I did see it. And there's another one in Alabama over on I-20. So they are really popping up everywhere.
Well, there's one in Gulf Shores, or right outside Gulf Shores.
Yeah, and I told you, these Buc-ee's, you always see the sign walking in on how much they pay their employees. They pay their employees good, and then this one employs about 200 people. They offer 3 weeks of vacation. They get full-time workers benefits, and they also get a 401k match. So it's actually a really good place to work nowadays. If you want to work in a Buc-ee's, they pay really well.
It's not bad if you're a college student.
Yeah, but I don't think these are a lot of college students. I think these are more people like us that just. Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of part-time work at Buc-ee's, but maybe so.
I mean, part-time college student where you might be able to work midnights and catch class during the day, something like that. But no, they pay what like $90,000 for a store manager.
They pay really well. Yep. Now, I'm sure that store manager is like, this is the worst job I've ever had.
Oh, yeah. They wake up every morning, put a shotgun in their mouth to decide whether or not they want to actually go to work.
But no, I mean, I think they treat their employees right. So,
well, if managing 200 hourly employees is not the easiest thing in the world.
Mm-mm. No, it's tough.
And it's a 24-hour place. Yeah. I don't typically stop at Buc-ee's because I don't want to spend that much time off the road. And now, if Connie needs to go to the bathroom and there's a Buc-ee's nearby, it's worth stopping because the bathrooms are sparkling clean.
Yeah, they are nice, and they've got a lot of good food in there. They've got the beaver nuggets and the brisket sandwiches, turkey sandwiches. There's a lot of good food. And it feels like, I think you mentioned it, but they don't allow truckers or 18-wheelers in the store, so it's all like, I call it just consumer use. So there's no business travel coming through there from a 18-wheeler perspective.
Well, it's not that truckers aren't allowed. There's no semi parking.
Yeah, there's no semi parking. Yeah, there's nowhere. So they don't stop there. They stop at the Loves and all the other truck stops at this point, and not your places like Buc-ee's.
Well, and I know some truckers got upset about that, but it's like, you're not our market.
No, and there's plenty of places for truckers to pull off the road and fuel up or take a shower or stay the night. It's just not Buc-ee's. Buc-ee's didn't go with that.
it keeps
model.
Love's in business. I mean, that's Love's business is truckers, because they're the ones getting, $2,000 worth of fuel.
Yep.
Spending $40 for a shower.
Yeah.
That's just not Buc-ee's. I mean, look, I know people love them. I've seen when it opened to Calhoun, I saw a bunch of friends go out there and take pictures next to the beaver statue, which, I mean, you're taking a picture with a piece of marketing, but whatever. And yes, it's a place you can go grab beef jerky. It's not cheap.
No, it's not cheap.
And I'll tell you, the one in Calhoun, there's only one entrance and exit. That's it. I guess this is where the zoning was.
Yeah, somewhere in Warner Robins. It's, you pull off the highway and there's like one entrance, and everybody comes in and out that place.
And look, I passed the one in Opelika a while ago, and it looked like every one of those, 200 pumps or whatever, was full. And a line of people waiting to get to a pump. I mean, it was jam-packed. They are making money hand over fist.
Yeah, they are.
And look, they got a great as somebody who, is kind of a marketing guy, that's outstanding. They did a great job. They made it a destination.
Yep, they did. It's not just a place to get gas anymore. I'd love to see the average time that someone spends inside of a Buc-ee's.
It's got to be an hour.
Yeah,
I mean, it has especially if you're traveling with kids.
Yeah, I mean, we spend 30 minutes in there probably every time we stop. So it's it's a little bit. It's a little detour out of your road trip.
Well, there's a web series. It's about two Brits in America. Well, I think it's a Brit and an Irishman. In America, they go to a Buc-ee's and they walk into the bathroom. I mean, that's not really all that cool to walk in the bathroom videotaping, but they just kind of did the entrance, and he's like, he's just like, my God, the bathroom in here is sparkling. He goes, you could eat off this floor. I wouldn't recommend that, but yeah, it's one of those $45,000 a year jobs is monitoring the bathrooms, going in and cleaning up.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think the people when they walk into a clean restroom tend to be cleaner.
Yeah, that's true.
Especially for the ladies, if they don't have to hover and they feel it's a clean seat, you're gonna have a lot less cleanup. And people tend to respect things that are nicer. So when you go to a Love's, which has gone downhill, honestly, and you see paper on the floor and stuff like that, people are less likely to clean up after themselves. All right. The Braves fall to below 500 Friday night.
No, they failed to reach.
Failed to reach. Failed to reach.
Yeah,
and against a putrid team. They were playing the Pirates.
At the end of the day, they had a terrible start. And what were they, 2-13 or something at the beginning of the year? So
0-7. Yeah,
so just getting back to this point, I think, is a win at this point. So they're trying to get back up to 500 and then move forward. So I think they're doing pretty good at this point. They've had a really good rebound from the beginning of the year.
Is it Profar that's suspended?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't watch them. I mean, I don't watch any baseball. I just saw the headline.
Yeah, I mean, they're playing a putrid team who just fired their manager. The Pirates are so bad, and to go out there and look, they've been a late scoring team for a few years now. And it's one of those things that has you holding on to the ninth. And honestly, when they're at home, fans don't leave when they're down 3 runs going into the ninth, because they have so often dug themselves out of it. But you just can't live in that arena. Everybody says when Acuna comes back, yes, we'll get a little more pop. And there's guys that they brought up and brought in that are doing a fairly good job. We got Albies that's a little over 200 right now batting. It's just that's not sustainable.
Yeah. So what about this earthquake?
All right. So there was a 4.1. Saturday morning, officially 9:04. I first heard about it on Facebook. Matt Lowe put something out. Did anybody feel that? And all I felt was I heard my liquor bottles clanking a little bit on my bourbon bar. That was it. I didn't feel the ground move under my feet. But I'm 150 miles south of the epicenter, which was just south of Knoxville. And if I know anything about college kids, they were still asleep and never felt it.
Yeah, I didn't feel it down here in Griffin, so must have just been up in your area.
Yeah, and 4.1 is not a huge earthquake. But that's where the mountains come from is moving plates. All right.
Very true.
I'm tired today.
I don't think it's for the reason that you're about to mention, though.
No. It says if you want to sleep well tonight, don't exercise within 4 hours of going to bed.
No, I haven't been exercising a lot lately, but I actually like to go to the gym at night. But yeah, this new study from 15,000 active men and women found that exercising within 4 hours of bedtime makes it harder to fall asleep. Oh, well. So, yeah, don't make this as an excuse not to work out, but it seems like if you work out at night, you don't sleep as well.
When I was in language school, I worked out 2 or 3 times a day, just depending. In the morning, I'd usually go on a run. At lunch, I might hit the gym and then do push-ups and sit-ups after school, after work. A lot of it was because I was around all the SF guys, because I went to Special Forces Language School, was trying to compete with them and keep up with them. But other than that, yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people that work out at night, but if you finish your workout at, say, 8 and you don't go to bed till midnight, you're probably fine.
Yep.
But I always found it kind of woke you up, got your adrenaline going. But if this was true about cardio, then why do guys fall asleep directly after marital relations?
Oh, there we go.
I mean, if that's true, I mean, it's like, all right, I'm going to bed now.
Yep.
All right, no more trans in the military. They have 30 to 60 days to get out.
Yeah, Pete Hegseth, Department of Defense Secretary, this week, I guess the Supreme Court upheld this decision. But if you're a trans in the military, you've got to get out within the next 2 months. So no more trans in the military. That's a pretty big story.
You just can't do it.
This is not either. Yeah, I mean, this is like men, going in and having a shower with the girls' swim team. I mean, it's just, I can't imagine it in the military.
Yeah, you got. Plus, it goes to standards. Well, I'm a woman now, and also a lot of these trans are non-deployable, so they're paying for the surgery, and then they're non-deployable for at least a year while recovering from one of these weenie or hoo-ha surgeries. But notice in the military, you don't see a whole lot of women becoming men. Yep. Because they really don't want to step up in standards and all that stuff.
And they said there's about 4,000 in the Defense Department right now, which is about 2.2% of 2 million service members. So over 4,000 people this will affect. Look, I think the president's in charge of the military. I don't know why this is even a court case, to be honest. I'm just confused on why the leader of the military can't figure out. I mean, can't dictate who can serve and who can't serve. I'm not sure I've ever agreed with courts getting involved in this. This is an executive function.
There are times that the courts get involved.
Yeah, quite a bit.
Usually it's internal within the military. It'll be things like sexual harassment and things like that. But typically the military...
Yeah, I get it on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but the military polices itself. But if someone believes that they were sexually harassed and the military UCMJ, Uniform Code of Military Justice, doesn't do what it's supposed to do, then it could go to civilian courts.
Yep.
But other than that, as far as doctrine goes, no, that SCOTUS doesn't have any say with military doctrine.
Yeah, but they ruled in favor of the ban 6-3. So this was a court is basically a 6-3 ideological split at the moment. But it was a 6-3 decision.
And the case was not should we and why trans are problematic within the military. It was can we? And the answer is yes.
Yep.
All right, we have the first American-born pope.
Yes, and this kind of came out of the blue last week. I was watching it. I mean, events like this, I'm not Catholic, but events like this are, they're things you don't see very often. But they have a new leader. It was Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost, and he's the first American-born pope.
Born in Chicago, the White Sox had a I don't know if it was officially a Pope night, But a lot of people went to the White Sox games in like Pope hats with socks written down it and robes. And the people of Chicago are really proud of this one. Even though he hasn't lived in the States in decades.
He really hasn't lived in the States. He was a missionary in Peru, and then he actually worked for the last Pope Francis as the person that basically went out and figured out who need to be, the new bishops and the cardinals within the church. And he took the name Leo the 14th. There hasn't been another Leo since, I think it's been over 1,000 years. So these names mean a lot in regards to how the Pope is actually thinking about his place in history. And so there's a lot of people, talking about why he chose Leo versus any other name, but I can't speak a lot to it again, because we're not, if we were Catholic, we'd probably know a lot more, but it was interesting that he chose that.
Well, I mean, I watched the coverage. I watched the funeral. Then I kept holding on for Leo to come out. And I had things to do that day. It was supposed to be 1 o'clock our time. It kept going and kept going and kept going. Finally, it came out. Because I'm like you. For me, it's the historical aspect of it.
It really is.
It's not the. I don't see him as leader.
There's a political aspect of it also. I mean, because you want to know how the Pope feels on a lot of these social issues that popes do get involved in nowadays. So part of it is sort of intriguing from that angle.
Well, John Paul II was in the political arena. It's just, for the most part, we happen to agree with him. You're getting rid of communism and communism being evil and things like that. So, I mean, he's relatively young at 69.
Mm-hmm.
I saw an interview with his brother. His brother seemed super nice.
I did too. That was pretty cool. Yeah.
So he said, yeah, even as a kid, we knew he'd be a priest, but I don't even think he thought he'd be the Pope. But he's come out against in the past homosexuality, abortion, those social issues that he said in, I think it's 2012, that those sorts of issues are not within the doctrine of the church.
Oh, which is true. I mean,
which is true.
Which is true. So it's good that he actually spoke out about that. But
and he never said don't love these people, don't appreciate these people, don't try to bring them into Christ. And he never said that these sins are not forgivable. He said that the church itself cannot endorse these behaviors.
Yeah, they shouldn't. He said, for example, abortion, homosexual lifestyle, euthanasia are against the beliefs and practices and are at odds with the gospel. I don't think anybody that can pick up a Bible can say those things are promoted within the gospel. So I know that the new, the letters, the LGBTQ plus community is sort of worried at this point, but he'll probably move back towards the middle a little bit.
I think he'll move towards the middle, not excommunicating homosexuals, or anybody in the alphabet thing, but to say that your lifestyle is not within the doctrine of the church, but we still love you, and the only sin I know that you cannot be forgiven for is euthanasia, because you won't have a chance. And that's a big thing with the Catholic Church is suicide being a sin that you can't recover from. You can't ask for absolution. All right, Marjorie Taylor Greene has announced she is out of the race for Senate. Not the 14th, just Senate.
Yeah, and this came from Governor Kemp last week announcing that he was not going to run for Senate, which we talked about, which opened up this whole now who's going to be the race. And everybody was kind of putting their finger on Marjorie being jumping into the Senate race. But she just announced, I guess, last Friday that she was not going to run for Senate. She's going to stay in her congressional district.
And I read her whole Facebook post, and that is 10 minutes I'll never get back. It was long. It was rambling. It really should have been maybe 2 paragraphs. But she went into
She actually wrote that, I think, too. There's no way somebody else wrote that for her.
No, that was her starting a sentence with "and."
Yep.
So some of the grammar in it was fairly atrocious. But she pats herself on the back talking about the country club Republicans and Kemp and Trump. It's just, she goes into the Kemp folks would kill her. That she says she could easily win a primary and beat John Ossoff. At one point, she says, John Ossoff, you can stop with the mailers and TV ads raising money because I'm not going to be your opponent.
And I think she could. I think she's right about. I think she was the odds-on favorite to win the Republican primary. Yeah, with the amount of money she can raise, her statute. I mean, people know her, and the voters in the Republican primary are hardcore. Trump supporters and Republicans.
She raises money from all 50 states.
She does. So I do think she would have a good chance in a primary.
I'm guessing that Trump made a phone call.
Something kind of set her off because she's done a couple things lately that have gone against, that have been kind of abnormal for her. She talked about the endless wars a couple weeks ago, which was really different for her. And now she's talking about this. So I don't know what's going on, but something's in her crawl.
Yeah, she said the Senate's broken. Quoted somebody with the Senate is where good ideas go to die. She chastised the Republican leadership in the Senate.
I mean, I don't blame her for that. I mean, she's right on that stuff.
No, but none of that really matters. Within what with running for the Senate, if the Senate's broken, hop in there and fix it.
Yep.
If that's the case, but she's in a seat that she can have as long as she wants.
She can. No Republican in that district is going to mount a charge on Marjorie Taylor. I don't think.
She would have to do something really dumb, which some of the things that she's done that were.
I mean, Jewish space lasers. If saying the Jews had space lasers, then if you don't get beat after saying that, then I don't. Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah, if they had space lasers, would they be taking out Gaza with a laser?
Yes. So, but she's out. So who else is in, I guess, at this point? And the only official announcement that's got any clout, I think, at this point is Buddy Carter, who is the congressman from District 1, which is the Savannah area. He lives down around Pooler. And I don't know much about Buddy Carter. I hear his name, but he served in the state house from 2005 to 2009. He was a state senator from 2009 to 14, and he's been in the U.S. House since 2015. So he's been around politics now for 20, 21 years. He's
further to the center than most Republicans will like. I don't. There's Buddy Carter's has got a lot of baggage that comes with him.
Yeah, I don't know anybody outside of that district that knows who Buddy Carter is. But that's the challenge you have if you're a congressman in Georgia. Besides Marjorie Taylor, I mean, most people don't know who the 3rd district congressional person is, or any of them if you live outside that district. So I think we're going to have probably 3 or 4 jump in the race. I can see Mike Collins jumping in that race. He's kind of rumored to be, in there. But then the other ones that are non-congressional people are John King. I think we all expect him to jump in, probably with Governor Kemp support. And then you've got Brad Raffensperger, who I think is, with Kemp not getting in, has opened a door for Raffensperger to jump in. So you're going to have some big, people that have won statewide races jump in that have more name recognition than these congressmen.
Yeah, I don't know about John King. I
don't think anybody in the state knows him because he's the insurance commissioner and he was appointed by Governor Kemp. So he didn't get into that position by running for office and being a statewide candidate. He got in through an appointment, which I never liked. But I don't think anybody knows John King. I think you could do an interview on the street and 1 out of 100 people would know who that guy is.
Yeah, I don't think he had an opponent in his primary primary for re-election. Then it was his re-election was last cycle, so it was during the Trump cycle. Trump folks turned out and they just voted for the R.
Yep. I think Brad Raffensperger at this point is the odds-on favorite. And I know my Republican friends will be like, oh, my God, I can't believe you said that. But I really think he's the front runner at this point if he jumps in. He's got money, name recognition. It'll be a challenge to get through a primary, but beat Jody Heist a few years ago, which nobody thought he could do.
Right.
So
it's quite possible. He's not my favorite. I don't know.
I think
who we really want.
I like Brad Raffensperger. Even though people talk about, I think he cost us the 2020 election by doing all the mail out. Sending the ballots out to everybody in the state was a huge mistake.
Yes, it was,
and everybody knows that was a huge mistake. And then they compounded that by recording a phone conversation with Trump, which that was a private conversation that should have never been recorded. But overall, Brad is a very conservative guy. He was a conservative guy in the House. He's done a good job with the Secretary of State's office besides the 2020 election. So and he's got a lot of money, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
He does have the coffers for it.
He does. If he can get his base out and there's no one else running in his lane, I think he's got a good chance because everybody else is going to, like Buddy Carter's first campaign announcement he was a, quote, MAGA warrior. So everybody else is going to run hardcore MAGA, and then there's going to be somebody else running outside of that lane. And I think it gives him a good chance to get into a runoff and potentially win in a runoff.
Trump just needs to stay out of it.
Well, I don't actually know how much Trump gets in it versus everybody else clinging to Trump. That's going to be the question. Buddy Carter calls himself a MAGA warrior. He is far from a hardcore. Whatever the MAGA definition is now.
The definition changes daily.
Yeah, you see all the tax plans coming out of Congress now where they're going to raise taxes on people making a certain amount of money. They're going to give breaks to the blue states, for claiming their tax payments on their tax. So yeah, there's nothing conservative about what's going on in Congress right now. Even the House didn't vote to get rid of all the Doge cuts. So all those Doge cuts that Elon Musk talked about, that stuff is still in there. None of that was being cut officially from the budgets. So yeah, I don't know what people in DC are doing at this point, but they're not conservative at all.
No, they're not. They run on the right and then move to the middle.
Yep.
And the Democrats run on the left and stay left.
Yeah. Now, this Buddy Carter stuff, we talked about it earlier, but what's so interesting about this is you can announce you're running for something like the Senate while you're a congressman, and you don't have to resign from your current seat. So I think Buddy Carter is going to find out he doesn't have a lot of support within the state. But in the meantime, there's going to be a lot of other people down in that district that have jumped into the race. I think you've got Jesus, Guns, and Babies is in the race. You've got a representative named Jesse Petrie. That's in the race.
Jesus, Guns, and Babies is running for what? I thought she was running for Senate.
She's running for Buddy Carter's seat.
Yeah. Well,
So you've already got about 5 people that have said, okay, Buddy Carter's running for Senate now. So all these other people jump in and start raising money. And there's a good chance Buddy Carter's going to say 3 months from now or 4 months from now, I don't think I can win. And he just jumps back into his own seat. So to me, I think there ought to be some kind of official, okay, I'm running for Senate. I've got to give up my House seat, and then I've got to move on at that point. I don't like this thought. And the senators do it when they run for president every 4 years. Marco Rubio says, hey, I'm going to run for president. And they gallivant all over the country spending gookools of money. And then when they don't win in the primary, they go back to their Senate seat. I just don't like the feel of that. Commit to something. You got to commit to one or the other.
The halls of Congress would be empty.
Fine, make them think harder about running for higher office. If anything, we need to replace some of these guys. Buddy Carter's been out there 20 years. I think it's time for him to do something else.
Yeah,
but anyway, I'll get off my soapbox on that.
It's not like he's depending on that 170,000 a year he gets as a member of Congress.
No, I just don't think it's right to say you're running for another job and then you can fall back to your other job if you don't win. I just don't think that's a good thing. And I don't know what happens with John King. He's insurance commissioner. Does he run for Senate? And if he loses, I guess if he qualifies, then Governor Kemp, what he'll do is be able to appoint someone to his position. So, which will start this vicious cycle of appointing people to jobs they didn't win.
Only if he wins.
Well, no, but if he qualifies next March, then once he qualifies, he'll have to get out of that insurance commissioner job. Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, the only insurance commissioners we know are the ones that mess up.
Yes, there's a couple of those in jail.
Oxendine was.
Yeah, no, the latest guy who I always forget is not Jim Beck. He's still in prison for what he did.
Yeah. All right. Kemp signed 6 bills aimed at public safety.
Yeah, so we talked about this before. Legislative session ended at the end of March, so Kemp's got, I think it's 40 days to sign legislation into law or they become law. So he signed 6 new pieces of legislation last Thursday aimed at really public safety in Georgia. So one of the bills increase the indemnification benefit for school employees that have a death on the job. So currently it's $75,000. If in the event of their death while on the job, this bill increases it to $150,000. So there's more.
That's a nothing burger.
Yeah, but at least they double that. I mean, I don't know how much this happens. I don't think it happens much, but yeah,
school shootings. That's what it's aimed at.
Yeah, it is.
But in the behavior of the teachers and the school safety staff, I don't think has anything to do with how much money the survivors will get. It's about saving kids.
It is. And then they did this. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, if we see 2 of these a year, I mean, it's, budgetarily it's insignificant.
Yeah, there's not much money in this. But then they do this. A lot of people have probably heard about this. Is that this new system is going around in Georgia. Some counties have done it now, some haven't. But it's this next gen 911 system. This is a pretty cool system. Like if you go in our 911 center in Pike County, it's the old system. So when somebody calls in, they try to triangulate where you are, but sometimes they don't know all the roads are not in the system. They're trying to work out these GIS systems. But this basically, helps counties implement this new system. And I don't know how much money there is with this. But this new system allows you to basically take a picture of where you're at or take a picture and send it into the 911 person so they actually can see what's going on. So it's really a big upgrade to the 911 system around Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, think about you being in Minneapolis and if you needed help. Where are you? Hell if I know.
Yeah, I know. But this new system really pinpoints exactly where a person is calling from.
Yeah, and I think it's great technology. Most Metro Atlanta obviously has it. Whether or not rural Georgia needs it, I don't.
It's more of a problem in rural Georgia than it is anywhere else because there's a lot of roads and dirt roads that are still not on maps. So this does allow people to pinpoint easier.
Yeah. I mean, that's where you're finding it. It's someone going down 16 not knowing exactly where they are.
Yep, and it's going to take 3 to 5 years to implement. So the counties still have quite a bit of work to do here. But yeah,
and that's moving fast for government.
Yeah, some are already on it, but this is for most of your rural counties are not on this new next gen system.
Yeah, and that's where it's affecting. And look, 3 to 5 years is aggressive when you talk about how many counties we have in Georgia.
Yep. I agree.
All right.
And then a couple others real quick. They gave the GBI new subpoena powers. I don't know what this is about, but they give them these subpoena powers in cyber crime cases, and then no more funding for inmate transgender care, which was Senate Bill 185. So I don't think we ought to be paying for inmates transgender care anyway, but that's what this bill excludes at this point.
And that's fine. Like I said, it's 0.2% of the population.
Yeah,
we're talking about a handful, and we can't uproot our legal system and we have enough trouble in our jails without paying for gender affirming care, as they put it. So
yeah, I agree.
All right, so Newark was having airport troubles last week in their ATC.
Airport? Yeah, have you ever flown into Newark?
I've never been to New Jersey.
Well, I mean, you can fly to Newark to go to New York, but I usually fly into JFK or LaGuardia. I've never thought about flying into Newark, but they're having all kind of problems.
Yeah. So Sean Duffy put up a display of the antiquated systems that they have at air traffic control. And we're talking about 80s and 90s technology. They're still using floppy disks.
Jeez.
And, he's been in office 4 months or whatever, but they're trying to hang it on Duffy. Like he walked into this mess. But honestly, so did Buttigieg. I mean, but none of the transportation chiefs or secretaries before have upgraded the systems. And now that we've got air travel, these systems were installed before we had Spirit, Frontier. And air travel is much more accessible to the public with with Frontier and cheap flights and all that stuff. So air traffic has exploded, which is where we get incidents like in D.C. where they're hitting a helicopter. Even though we talked about a week or two ago that she didn't listen to her trainer and move left, but that corridor is so congested, and it's because we have that many more flights. And ATC just can't keep up with them with the systems that they have.
Yes, and this was the latest outage. It lasted about 90 seconds, which doesn't seem like a lot, I think, to most people. But if you're dark for 90 seconds and you got a bunch of planes up in the air, coming down, and you can't talk to them.
That are moving at 3/4 the speed of sound.
Yeah, so 90 seconds is a lot. And they said following this outage, and this is a big part of the problem too, is several controllers went on medical leave, calling the experience a traumatic event. So these controllers, I was talking to one last weekend, like if they take certain medication, if they get stung by a bee, for example, and have to take whatever you call it for, like itching, they have to stay out like 4 days for that or 3 days for that. And these controllers
take Benadryl,
Benadryl. So these controllers are now entitled to at least 45 days away from the job and must be evaluated by a doctor before they can return from work. So there's so many different reasons that these controllers are staying out of work. So they've got lack of staff in that Newark office, and then they've got these issues with the technology. So it's a mess. And they came out last week and said you should not fly into Newark at this time. I mean, can you imagine like? Yeah, I'm not flying into Newark if this kind of stuff's going on.
I've been in New York twice for a total of about 4 hours.
Yeah,
maybe 6 hours. I connected in JFK going to Athens, and then when I went to Niagara Falls, I flew into Buffalo. So I don't have a whole lot of frame of reference for Newark or even JFK.
It's just right over to the west side. Yeah, it's right over to the west side of Manhattan. I mean, it's not far. It's like a 25-minute train ride into the city. So a lot of people do fly into Newark. Oh, well.
But if you remember the movie Pushing 10 with Billy Bob Thornton and I can't remember, I think it was John Cusack. And it was a comedy, but it dramatized the mental breaks these guys have and how you kind of lose it. And when you lose it, it's really hard to come back.
Yeah.
So, and I'm trying to remember a movie I saw probably 30 years ago. But that's what this kind of reminded me of when you talk about mental health breaks and all that stuff was Pushing 10, where once you lose your nerve for the job, you're out. And that was 30 years ago, back when the technology that Duffy put up there was current.
Yep.
Speaking of Newark, real quick, the Newark, New Jersey mayor was arrested on Friday for pushing his way into an ICE detention facility in his city.
And he wasn't supposed to be there. He had no authority to be there. Yeah, I hope they arrest him and keep him in jail for a while. But he was released, it looks like, a few hours later.
And I don't know what the charge will be. At very least, it'll be trespassing. But honestly, pushing past a guard in a detention facility, it's got to be a felony.
You would think.
2 other congressmen from New Jersey were there. It was a big protest outside the ICE facility. Look, everyone in that facility has had due process.
Yep.
They're not being just picked up off the street. They've all had due process. They're in the process of due process. So all those detainees have been in front of a judge, and are waiting on disposition of their cases. So it's not. This is not what. If people actually spoke the truth about what's going on, and you know what, if this mayor wants to speak the truth that he wants illegals in his city because I don't know, he likes having his grass cut. I don't know, but if that's what he wants to say, then come out and say it. But again, these Democrats keep coming out on the side of MS-13 and Tren de Aragua, and this is not a good look for them going forward.
No, it's not.
So India and Pakistan were on the verge of war.
Yes, and it was breaking news this morning. There's actually a ceasefire, but there was a lot of a kind of a wider conflict erupted last week after India launched strikes on both Pakistan and entered Kashmir. Yeah, that was these were, what did they kill? 31 people were killed in attacks in Pakistan. And this has had everybody on kind of edge over in that environment because both of these countries have nuclear bombs, and they were really worried that this would escalate more into a regional war. But it sounds like Trump and the negotiators have come between India and Pakistan now, and we've got a ceasefire as of May 10th. So hopefully this holds. This could turn into a big mess.
And we don't need tech support getting all blown up. Look, the Pakistanis and the Indians were one country for a long time. They are mostly genetically the same people. They're separated by religion. And that's kind of the problem here is, and there are plenty of Indian Muslims. There are Indian Christians.
Yep.
You know, being Indian is a nationality, not a race, and not a religion in and of itself. But yeah, it was starting to get hairy over there because the attacks were escalating. This is in Kashmir.
Mm-hmm.
Good song by Led Zeppelin too. But
I don't know if I've heard that one.
Yeah, Kashmir, yeah, you've heard it. You probably didn't know the name, but this is a disputed territory. They started lobbing bombs or rockets across each other. A lot of the dead were civilians.
Yep.
You know, as soldiers, you kind of have a code as you agree to be ready to lay down your life. Civilians are just going about their daily lives.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so hopefully this holds, this truce holds, or this ceasefire holds for a little while, because that could really blow up over that way.
The other thing about how many imports, and we just struck a trade deal with India.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't want that. We don't need it, and the global community doesn't need it. We've got enough hot spots in the Middle East without worrying what's going on in South Asia.
Yep.
So I mean, it's certainly scary. Of course, J.D. Vance had something to say about it being married to an Indian woman. I mean, J.D. has been very out front with the press. He even mentioned something about the Pope, that he's not going to get into the politics of the Pope because he is a practicing Catholic.
Yes, he is.
But he's definitely out front with the media, much more so than Mike Pence was, and I think that's indicative of Trump being willing to share the limelight.
Yep.
As he has JD in there in public meetings, but he lets people talk now instead of him dictating. He lets people talk in these pressers, and it's definitely a change from his first administration. But I was very happy to see that India and Pakistan have decided to stop killing each other for a while. All right, the U.S. hitting debt limit again.
Yeah, who didn't see this coming? Yeah, so it's going to hit in August, $36 trillion in debt, and they're going to have to increase the debt limit again. Feels like this happens every 3 or 4 months now.
Because all they do are continuing resolutions. They don't address the underlying issue.
They address spending. Yeah, there's no spending addressed. And even this new bill that Republicans are going to pass is still going to blow the budget up. So, yeah, so they're going to. It looks like they're going to try to raise it by $5 trillion more and take it to $41 trillion at this point. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody's ever going to address this debt. this just going to come to a head at a certain point and be really damaging for the U.S., but even the GOP at this point, they're not doing it. Like, nobody up in Congress is addressing this debt.
The number one creditor for the United States are U.S. citizens with bonds. So like I say, China's China owns a bunch of it, yeah, but the number one debt holder is U.S. citizens.
Yep. So,
and that's where we see Treasury bills go up. Is when they want to sell more of them, the T-bills go up, and that causes mortgage rates to go up, which echoes throughout the economy.
Yep. And they got to get this done by mid-July because Congress takes a break in August every year, so they take a month off. So if they don't get this debt limit increased by mid-July, they'll be working in August to try to get it done. So that's only a couple months off for them to figure this out and all agree. And there's a couple of congressmen, on the Republican side that, they're not going to vote for this stuff, which good for them. But it looks like the Speaker of the House is going to need Democrat support again. And anytime you need Democrat support, you know where that's going.
Right. And Hakeem Jeffries has already said he's not playing their game.
But he'll go along with it if they get more spending. So
right.
Yep.
All right. So Trump getting involved in Georgia politics. He backs Josh McCoon for a GOP chair.
Yeah, and Josh is the current chairman of the state GOP party. And I think Josh has done a good job. But yeah, Donald Trump, he had a challenger this time. I think the challenger's name was David Cross. And the state GOP convention's coming up at the beginning of June. But Trump did tweet this week or put it on True Social that he was backing Josh again for a second term. And he's done a fantastic job. So good for him that
I guess
Josh has done a good job.
I guess that's fine. Trump is the leader of the national GOP. It doesn't matter who the chairman is. When your boy's in power, that's the leader of the Republican Party. Or in Joe Biden's case, Jill Biden was the leader of the Democratic Party, I reckon.
Yep. And then, so this state convention, June 6th, I think is the big night, which is the Friday or Saturday night. And even Josh has been able to help with getting Governor Kemp there was a big split. We've talked about this a ton, but there was a big split between Governor Kemp and the state GOP party. They booed him off the stage down in Savannah at one of their conferences. And there's just been a lot of drama between the state GOP party and Governor Kemp. So I think Josh has helped this a lot, and he should probably handily win now up in Dalton in a few weeks.
All right, so Pam Bondi spills the beans on the Epstein files.
How does so many people get caught by James O'Keefe and his group of people being undercover? I never understand how so many people just talk to random strangers about stuff. Do you do this? Because I don't. I'm very guarded when I talk to strangers about stuff that's kind of confidential or, stuff that you shouldn't be talking about. But yes.
Well, the video that O'Keefe dropped didn't show the beginning of the conversation, didn't show how it started. But look, he's done a lot of funny stuff. It was a few years ago.
I just don't get that people keep talking to random strangers about things that are confidential.
Did you see the video of him going into Planned Parenthood saying he was going to make a donation, but he wanted to make sure it only went to black children?
Yes. He's done tons of stuff. He's got people, the NSA to come out and talk about the way they're still doing spying on Americans. He's just got all kinds of stuff. But yeah, this lady they're having brunch in a restaurant, and the woman approached her and asked, do you know when the Epstein files are going to be released? And Pam Bondi says, yeah, we hope soon. The FBI has been on them.
And she also says that there's hundreds or thousands of hours of sex acts, including children, and we can't release that.
Yeah, she said they have to go through every one of them. So, but why is Pam Bondi talking to some stranger, telling her that there's tens of thousands of videos and it's all with little kids in them, when she hasn't said that publicly? I don't understand why you would say that to some random stranger that comes up to you when you're having brunch in a restaurant. Yeah, so I don't know. It's just so strange, but
It's also, people have to realize that every citizen is a reporter now.
yes, they are. Yep.
James O'Keefe
know.
obviously has a bigger platform than Dave Roberts, but if I get somebody on a recorded line, I can put it out on social media. I mean,
And obviously, they can't show these videos. They can't release these videos with little kids in them. But what they can do is bring charges if the statute of limitations hasn't run out on all these people that are in the videos. And I think that's what the American public wants at this point, is they want to know who are all these people that were in these videos and were doing these sex acts with underage kids. And I think that's all the public is asking for at this point.
Yes, besides the files, we want charges.
And even if they can't charge them, I want names. I mean, send out a name. Say, hey, we can't charge this person anymore, but this is who was having sex with a 15-year-old girl on Epstein Island.
Right.
I mean, people need to know this kind of detail, and that's what everybody feels like the government's hiding this stuff from them at this point.
I think her explanation is plausible. I wouldn't mind her saying that at a press conference, that there are tens of thousands of videos involving minors. How about not release the videos, but release the names? That look just like you said.
Yes.
Don't release any of the
names.
videos because most of these women were victims, even if they were 18, that they had been groomed for a while. So it's not like you're going to release a sex tape with Bill Clinton with a 19-year-old and say, okay, it's okay to release that. But no, his name needs to come up on it if that's something that happened.
Yep.
All right, this is a good time to remind you that these are our opinions and not those of anyone not on the show or any respective company for which we may work, own, or otherwise associate ourselves with on a regular or irregular basis. Also, you can find other episodes and relevant stories over at georgiavirtue.com. My mule this week is Jill Biden for trotting Joe out and out to the media in hopes of getting
painful.
A book deal worth something in the range of $30 million.
It was pitiful. I saw the take of him on The View trying to talk, and he was having a hard time, and Jill had to jump in. Oh, my God. Democrats even this week said, why did they do this? Like, why is Jill... They were like, every time Joe Biden comes back out, it reminds everybody of what the Democrats and the media did to cover up the condition that he was in over the last couple of years. Yeah, I don't know why they keep trotting him out.
And she goes, no one works harder than Joe and all this stuff like...
Oh, I know. She said he was up all night, and yeah, nobody believes that.
He was up all night. He was up peeing.
That's very true.
It's just they're saying they're broke, which is not true. They're not broke. It's that the gravy train has ended, and they're not going to be able to maintain the lifestyle to which he's become accustomed to, having several houses and things like that. And at this point, Jill just needs to be looking at life insurance, not trying to sell a book.
Yeah,
because no one's going to buy it. It's even.
But it was truly pitiful this week. It really was.
It was, and that's on Jill. I'm sorry, Dr. Jill.
Yeah, Dr. Jill.
But that's on her. That's on her to guard his dignity. And she's absolutely not. She knows she's going to outlive him. She wants that book deal. She wants that $30 million. That's why she's out there kind of drumming up support for it.
Yep.
And then when they quote unquote write it, which is going to be it'll be a ghostwriter, obviously. When they do write it, they'll go on another media tour trying to sell it. But notice, he's not getting speaking engagements. Like, Bill Clinton makes a lot of money going and speaking.
Yep.
And no one wants to hear from Joe because he can't speak. We had 4 years of listening to him, and Columbia doesn't want Joe Biden to get up there and speak. He's not giving commencement addresses. He's not going to political rallies. He's not supporting Democrat candidates. Don't want Joe's support.
No, they don't. No, they want him to go away and a new next wave of leadership to come through. They don't want this old leadership. They don't want Hillary Clinton involved. They don't want him involved. Yeah, they're trying to figure out who's the next leader of the party, and every time he jumps back in, it derails what they're trying to do.
Yeah, it's sad at this point. He's out. He's gone. Just go sit on your house in Delaware or whatever on the beach and watch the sunrise and sunsets and go do whatever it is that you do.
Yep, exactly.
All right, so Delta faces a class action lawsuit over the CrowdStrike outage.
Yeah, and what is this? This was that 6-day outage, basically, that started almost a year ago, July 19th, 2024. Delta uses the technology from CrowdStrike, and it basically brought the systems down. They had to cancel more than 6,500 flights. And what this lawsuit's really alleging is Delta ignored or refused people's request for prompt refunds for their canceled or delayed flight. So this judge is saying, hey, Delta, you're on the hook for basically, passenger negligence at this point. They're going to let this lawsuit keep going. Yeah, I don't know why this is. I don't know why Delta thought they wouldn't have to face this. But yeah, you got to always look at who, in places like Delta or people I work for, we've got to look at who we're using underneath the covers and make sure we're covered when things like this happen. And Delta's probably going to pay a lot of money, and I bet CrowdStrike's going to pay a lot of money also.
Right. Delta and other airlines will turn around and sue CrowdStrike.
Oh, 100%. They're probably already, renegotiating contracts and trying to get money out of CrowdStrike. But yeah, they said they had all these unexpected expenses too that people did. It was flights from other airlines, hotels, rental cars, ground transportation, and food. So people are really going after this, saying we didn't get covered for all this. Now, I've never thought about that. I've had flights canceled before, and I never said Delta owes me a bunch of money for all this other stuff. I kind of just think it's a cost of traveling. But how people are nowadays, they sue for anything.
Well, it really depends on why your flight's canceled. If it's weather, there's nothing they do for you. If it's a mechanical issue or system issue, typically they issue vouchers for hotels and for restaurants. The problem during the CrowdStrike was it was so widespread, those vouchers were worthless. Because if they say we'll send you to the Ramada, and you get there and you're like, I've got this voucher, and the Ramada's like, well, I'm sorry, but we don't have any rooms.
I know, exactly. Yep, that does happen a lot.
So it was so widespread. So yeah, I just don't like class action lawsuits because nobody makes any money besides the lawyers.
That is who makes most of it.
They'll get some settlement of $100 per person by the time the lawyers get paid. So the lawyers will make $1 billion, and the average flyer who was probably out another $500 or $1,000, depending on how many were in the group and how long they got stranded, will get $100 back, or will get a Delta credit or something like that.
Yeah, it's not going to be much for the normal person.
No, all these class actions. They end up with things like, there was one with insurance companies pulling credit reports to change your rates, and I heard the settlement on that was a bunch of money for the lawyers, and anybody who's involved in that gets a free credit report or something like that. There was no money given to the individuals.
Right.
So it'll probably be vouchers or something like that from Delta, and the lawyers will make $1 billion.
Yep, exactly.
Which that's just the way it goes. But if you try to sue Delta individually, the lawyer, Motley & Associates, is not going to survive suing Delta.
No, so it has to be one of these class action lawsuits.
Right. It's not like if I got stranded in some god awful place like Newark, that I can sue. I have the right to sue Delta, but they would just push it out so long that anybody that I would hire, a typical tort attorney, wouldn't take the case. It's too much work, it's too big, and Delta has too many lawyers.
Yep, true.
So as we're winding down, do you have any closing thoughts?
No, I think we covered about all of it today.
Well, the only thing I've got is if you like what you heard, please like and share us on the socials. So big thanks to Eric Cumbay, who's our editor, to Ken Poland, my partner in this endeavor. We'll talk to you next week.
Oh, I've been running from the law. Hope they won't shoot me down soon. They catch me howling at the moon.